You're cleaning today or tomorrow? After you're dead, the words echoed in Sofia Petrov's mind with every ragged breath she drew in. The hallway, shrouded in shadows, carried an echo of fears not spoken aloud but felt with a redolence of polished wood and bitter lemon. Sofia, a housemaid working quietly within the sprawling mansion of the De Luca family, often found herself confronting such casual dismissals. Sofia's appearance seldom betrayed her capacity, a petite frame clothed in worn-out cotton dresses, her hair forever tied back in a plain bun. There's a steadiness in her stride, even as she carried herself quietly through corridors lined with opulent paintings and silent guards whose gazes lingered like shadows. In their eyes, she was just another ghost, attending to her duties, unseen and unsung. Today, however, was different. Giovanni De Luca, the family's patriarch, expected his estate to shimmer more than any Firenze dawn a night of business, he said. Pressure seeped into Sofia's bones like the persistent chill of the Florentine eve, overshadowed by Giovanni's stringent gaze. The whispers around the mansion alluded to important guests, hands that could seal fates with a flick of a wrist or clink of a clandestine toast. The day unfolded into a whirlwind of polishing and organizing, the worn wooden floors reflecting a history of footsteps unheard. The sweet scent of Mandarin cologne and the deeper, richer notes of fresh tobacco followed the silhouettes of suited men floating through the manor's halls. A crisis brewed when Sofia, attempting to polish a bust of Caesar in the study, knocked over a stack of confidential papers. The slap of their fall silenced the room, drawing the immediate scrutiny of Mr. De Luca himself. With a sigh that reeked of condescension, he crossed the room, each step deliberate like the ticking of an alien clock poised to strike. Careful, Sofia, his words stretched into the silence, a thin veneer of respect over a core of steel. Some things are more fragile than they appear. Sofia's cheeks flushed with heat, hands trembling as she reorganized the spilled history before him. An internal storm brewed, yet outside she met his gaze with composure, whispering apologies that danced nervously in the air. As shadows elongated with the setting sun, Sofia's path crossed with Nikolai, Giovanni's son, a man known more for his unpredictable temper than his heritage as heir apparent. Nikolai's interaction was brief, a flash of blue eyes sharp as winter skies, lips curling in an almost apologetic smile as their paths intertwined in the labyrinth of corridors. Sofia, he had said, one hand brushing the banister she had just cleaned, leaving traces of unseen soot that caught the unfortunate light. He handed her an additional list of duties, tasks as endless as the De Luca's legacy. Even amidst the chaos, the portrait room called to her a forbidden allure. Hung with gilded frames and dark secrets, it was a room Sofia had only dared to enter with purpose and leave with haste. Yet today it beckoned with an invisible thread. The first thing she noticed was the largest painting, its canvas dominated by the fierce visage of Giovanni himself. Yet, tucked away in the corner, partially obscured by drapery, was a smaller portrait. The brushstrokes were both delicate and bold, capturing an image of someone familiar in ways she couldn't yet grasp. Moving closer, Sofia's fingers ghosted over the frame, sending an unexpected chill skittering down her spine. And then, she saw it, her own likeness, staring back at her with detailed precision. The dress, unmistakable, the very same she now wore, depicted in shades of white and shadow. The revelation buried Sofia beneath layers of confusion and awe, a pulse of adrenaline racing through her veins. Why did Giovanni, a man of importance and reputation, possess her image within his personal gallery? 1,000 questions ensued, clamoring louder than any verbal dismissal she had endured. Her heart hammered with the force of a war drum as she realized the implications every glance Giovanni cast her way. Each subtle nod contained more than mere acknowledgement. They were chords in a melody she had never suspected, notes in a symphony she had inadvertently composed. As she turned to exit, Maria, the head cleaner and unofficial eyes of the estate, appeared at the doorway. Her wrinkled face crinkled further as her eyes took in Sofia's shocked expression. "He doesn't paint portraits for nothing," Maria's voice crackled, flavored with the smoke of 100 hidden cigars. The seed of mystery planted inside Sofia's heart grew, even as Maria's tight-lipped warning echoed around her so, "Keep to your tasks, child. Not everything needs discovery." Returning to her duties, Sophia's movements were laced with newfound intent, her actions sharper, thoughts altogether elsewhere. Trapped between the normalcy of her routine and the extraordinary revelation hanging in secretive corridors, Sophia worked under the ever-watchful eyes of painted ancestors and their flesh and blood descendants alike. Yet her story in the mansion was far from a simple household tale. As night embraced the estate, the sky peering through grand windows, Sophia felt an undercurrent shift, something more than shifting sheets and polished china. "I thought I'd find you here." The voice was a whisper against the clinking crystal. Nikolai stood at the edge of her vision, his gaze penetrating beyond her mundane facade into the whirlwind of unspoken intrigue. Sophia glanced at the darkening hallway beyond his shoulder, arrayed with shadows that whispered a conversation she wasn't part of, but yearned to understand. Then, with an air of finality that hinted at beginnings untold, "Susahamon," Nikolai added, "Father doesn't know everything he paints." The echoes lingered long after his silhouette vanished into the shadows, leaving Sophia alone with racing thoughts in a house that suddenly felt far too alive. An unknown detail waited to unfurl in corners unacknowledged, promising a discovery that could shift the very foundations of her existence. Simultaneously thrilling and terrifying, Sophia felt the tension rise as she wrapped her innocence tighter around her, slipping unnoticed back to her station. But as she dusted off another statue, the light caught an odd reflection, a faint, flickering silhouette that paused at the edge of her vision, neither fading nor sharpening under her scrutiny. "Do you believe in ghosts, Sophia?" came the softest whisper, without a source in sight. The sky blazed red, like the last scream of a dying sun, casting bloodied shadows against the ancient walls of the De Luca estate. Sophia wiped away sweat, breathing heavily, each gasp infused with a metallic scent of anticipation and burnt amber. Her pulse, a silent drum against her ribs, accelerated as if taunting the silence. Who could have known that the evening's stillness, with its languid air and somnolent glamour, would be slashed open by the reverberating report of a gun? Sophia had been dusting the last of the Art Deco chandeliers when she heard it. The sound of a life cleaved from its thread, deeper than the ocean's hollow undertow, sending chills spiraling through her. Immediately, everything became frenetic. Men in sleek, perfectly tailored suits rushed past, their urgency disturbing the layers of dust she had yet to polish away. Their footsteps thundered like a herd of wild horses, the patter matched by the frantic throb of her own heartbeat. Sophia, unassuming and diminutive, clutched her rag like a lifeline, eyes wide against the unfolding chaos. A cleaner's life was straightforward. Expected dust, wipe, polish, repeat right until life wrong-footed you, revealing shadows that festered beneath palatial opulence. Hushed voices, wrapped in urgent whispers, spoke of a breach, of lines crossed, and allegiances questioned. Her task, mundane as it seemed, had become Sisyphean as she wrestled with the enigmatic titters of a household on the brink of a revelation. "Steer clear, Sophia," warned Pietro, an estate guard whose intentions always felt akin to a polished blade, deceptive in clarity and cold beneath. She nodded mutely, retreating further into the recesses of the corridor. Yet the echo of Maria's words lingered like smoke. Not everything needs discovery. But Sophia felt the draw, an inescapable magnetism, toward the canvas echoes of her duplicate. The mansion in daylight was a brazenness of polished marble and gilded railings. At night, shadows cloaked its secrets, and only the loyal and the lost were privy to its true heart. Sophia, against every rational plea in her mind, decided she needed to see. Creeping through passages reserved for staff, she reached the portrait room. The desire to unveil the truths hidden beneath layers of oil and age outweighed the burdens of expectation heaped upon her by duty. Her likeness on canvas met her eyes once more, a mirror not tainted by reflection, but by the mind of an unknown artist. Here, in the quietude swathed with dust and mystery, the world paused. "Why?" she whispered, though she expected no answer. And then came Nikolai, his arrival marked by the faintest echo of leather against stone. "Why indeed?" he mused. His presence seemed forged from the very shadows she sought to pierce. There was artisanry in his movements, a confidence that bordered arrogance. "You painted this?" Sophia dared, a strange knot of anger and intrigue twisting in her chest. Nikolai's chuckle was wash against rock, soft yet unwavering, in a manner of speaking. My father, he sees more than most would dare. You've intrigued him, Sophia. There was subtext beneath his words, a riddle waiting to be unraveled. Is it, she began. It's true. His interruption was gentle, almost apologetic. He paints what he wishes could be his future. You are part of that tapestry, much as I once was. What does that mean? Her voice barely a whisper, threadbare against the tapestry of deception. Nikolai stepped closer, his gaze holding hers captive. It felt as if the mansion, the world itself, faded, leaving just the two of them in this intimate abyss. There are plans, Sophia, bigger than floor polish and dusted frames, plans that might include you, if you desire. His offer lingered like the scent of aged whiskey, promising warmth and a perilous aftertaste. Would I, she asked, more to herself than to him. What does your heart say? An abstraction of silence blossomed between them before the urgency of imminent footsteps splintered the moment. Think on it. The night will offer clarity. Nikolai retreated, his form swallowed by the ravenous maw of the corridor. Sophia stood alone, the air heavy with words unsaid. But even as she felt the mansion's secrets close in, a vestige of steel within her refused submission. The portrait, silent and damning, watched her return to her duties, only to find her steps leading to the conservatory, that forbidden room where melodies whispered past. Music, wistful and haunting, floated through the door, aged by neglect. Yet here lay the mansion's soul, its beating heart beneath layers of orchestrated chaos and rivalry, rhythms lost to time. There in the shadows, she discovered yet another figure. Eyes, amber and intense, seemed lit from within, their resonance a flickering warmth in the ever-deepening night. Do you dance, Sophia? The figure inquired, the echo curiously familiar, words dipped in an allure she could not readily dismiss. No. Would you care to learn? Sophia hesitated, the very air holding its breath in anticipation. Why would you teach me? She countered, drawn despite herself, like a moth to flame. Because sometimes it takes a dance to understand the steps already within us. His hand extended through the darkness, a bridge between solitude and communion. Sophia inhaled sharply, the decision palpable, a moment tugging at her destiny's thread and weaving new complexities into an ever-thickening plot. Yet the question remained. Whose dance was she meant to follow? With resolve, she stepped into the unknown, where the velocity of fate twirled amidst shadows and carefully executed steps. The night split open with the first notes of an unseen orchestra, her heart sinking with a rhythm as ancient as the mansion itself. But it was the vision beyond the glass that shattered the moment, a shadow at the edge of the grounds. Distinctly familiar, yet impossibly estranged. I see ghosts, whispered Sophia to the darkness, and the night, in its infinite wisdom, declined to reply. Nikolai's laughter rang out like a gunshot, sharp and unexpected. Sophia turned, her hand clutching the broom with white-knuckled intensity. The ornate hallway glistened under the refracted sunlight, ruthless in exposing imperfections both real and imagined. Nikolai's eyes were full of mirth. Yet there was a darkness lurking within, a labyrinthine crowd of secrets that danced just beneath the surface. Invitations hardly mean acceptance, he remarked, his voice a velvet blade cutting through the tension. Sophia's heart was a caged animal fighting against its confines. Her appearance, perpetually unassuming, was her shield a threadbare dress, her hair tame yet rebellious in the midday light. Familiar scents of lilac polish and musty drapery folded themselves into her senses, grounding her in the tumultuous landscape of the DeLuca estate. Men walked with deliberate strides, cloaked in mystery and power that seemed to charge the very air they breathed. Giovanni DeLuca himself was immersed in negotiations, each word a token of dominion exchanged between titans unaware of their shadows shifting. Sophia's task was simple, yet it weighed her down, a responsibility that clung to her like the dust she was meant to eliminate. Maria's aged warnings filtered back, whispered shreds of wisdom intertwined with gruff tenderness. But curiosity was a potent siren, and Sophia felt its song pull her towards dangerous shores. As the clock ticked into late afternoon, the estate rang with an alarm startling in its shrillness, vindicating in its immediacy. Sophia dropped the broom, its clatter swallowed by the panic rippling through the hallways. It was unlike anything she'd encountered. The tension taut as wire, the air electric with fear. Questions spun on unrelenting gears within her mind, tumbling over themselves in frantic pursuit of answers. The men in suits that brushed past were no longer the aloof guardians of an invisible order. They moved with purpose, as if their very lives depended on actions unseen and incomplete. The mansion, so stately and sure, had shifted into something living and breathing. "Find shelter," a disembodied voice instructed, its owner lost in the chaos. It was a command wrapped in necessity, giving Sophia pause yet urging her onward. It was Nikolai, finding her in the crowd, his presence looming like a specter amidst the crescendoing fear. He looked every inch the air, flushed with a sense of pending danger yet calm beneath its weight. "There's more happening here than you ever knew," he murmured, the words intimate amidst the bedlam. Sophia's body reacted before her mind, muscles taut with adrenaline. Where do I go?" The question tumbled free, an unbidden testament to her vulnerability. "Follow me," he said, his tone a lifeline amidst the ever-deepening mystery. In the winding corridors that followed, Sophia maintained her silence, the atmosphere pregnant with unspoken things. Every echo seemed to hold an unseen watcher, every soft thud a judgment from the unseen jury of ancients shielding secrets. They arrived at the attic stairs, shadowed and spiraling into some unsure destiny. Nikolai's fingers barely brushed the rusted railing, a faint gesture leading them upward. As they climbed, dust swirled rebelliously, forming tiny storms in their wake. Sophia was aware of every creak and groan, the wood telling tales older than she could imagine. At the top, there was no grand reveal, only a room, expansive and silent. The air felt heavy against her skin, a tapestry of sorrow interwoven with the grand dust motes illuminated by encroaching dusk. There, amidst the forgotten artifacts and lifeless trunks, sat a solitary easel. Upon it rested an unfinished canvas, its absence of completion haloed in despair, yet glistening with potential. The room, despite its inertia, was loud with memory, humming with an energy Sophia couldn't yet identify. And there, in the shadows, Nikolai stilled, eyes reflecting the ghosts lurking amongst them. His guard, ever present, seemed more human in the softened light. "This is where it started," he admitted, eyes fixating on what was and what could be. His visions. Giovanni crafts reality with a brush. Sophia felt the weight of revelations yet unsaid, the whispered promises of truths poised right on the precipice of her understanding. Why did he paint me? Her questions, soft and jagged, threatened to topple the fragile house of cards they precariously inhabited. Nikolai's silence spoke volumes. Resignation and something akin to hope flashed in his gaze. "Because you, like so many others before, are tied to this legacy, willingly or by fate's unkind weave." She looked around, the room silently screaming stories unheard. Sophia's resolve carried her forward, tenderness born from empathy, a burning curiosity laced with caution. Touching the edge of the canvas, she felt a ripple beneath her fingertips, an uncertain magic shifting plates beneath her reality. "I am no more than a passing dream. He's wrong," she managed, the rebellion heartfelt yet hushed. Nikolai's smirk was the rebellion of a blue sky waiting behind storm clouds. Dreams grant us glimpses of what's possible, even if briefly. As dusk surrendered to night, Sophia understood her role was more than that of a sideline spectator. Within her grasp lay choice, each as delicate as the aged paper cradled in her hands. "When you leave here, what will you take with you?" Nikolai's question was not one of materialism, but of lessons learned and truths embraced. The air was still. Sophia's heart made the simplest of decisions, unbound by judgment. "Memories," she responded, knowing the mansion's essence had imbued her with an identity she would bear, regardless of the chains that sought to bind her. Even as she considered the path forward, darkness offered its last trick of movement in the corner, fleeting yet defined. A shift in light revealing that which dared not remain hidden. Sophia dared a step forward, the silence electric, finely poised on an edge so thin it begged to be breached. A single shadow stretched into the moonlight's embrace, whispering possibilities neither confirmed nor denied. And the mansion, silent and timeless, held its breath as Sophia's world trembled on the hinge of oblivion. What secrets would the ghost whisper into the wind tonight? The sound of shattering glass followed by a guttural scream pierced the manor's facade of opulence, rippling through corridors like a warning shot in the night. Sophia was caught mid-step in the library, hand poised to guide the duster in one last sweep. The echoed devastation silenced even the whispering marble beneath her feet, a solitude begging for illumination. Her attire, a semblance of eternity and simplicity, sat crisp against her skin, the polyester blend a touchstone grounding her amidst unraveling chaos. The air, redolent with the scent of leather bindings and ink, felt alive, pulsing as though eager to leap off the shelves. A panic button tucked beneath Sophia's thoughts triggered when the scene unfolded before her conscious eyes. Giovanna, the crimson-draped force of nature, lay sprawled across the broken remnants of her fury. The impact a calculated release of power against a century-old window, now glittering like fallen stars at her feet. Sophia blinked, a single musketeer in the face of her infinite woes and surprise. Accidents are rarely just that, Giovanna seethed, her words mixed with blood and defeat. The weight of the forbidden exchange settled around them, a pallor cast through forgotten sunbeams still tethered to the illustrious family name. Retracing her footsteps unevenly, Sophia felt initiated into a secret society as she hesitated at the edge of the carnage. Her shadow preceded her into the alcove, trembling slightly where the dust collected in defiance of time's advancement. The pin on tension twitched. "Do you ever regret?" Sophia's words broke the silence, defying the catastrophe by acknowledging its aftermath. "Regret fuels survival," Giovanna replied, her elegance splintered yet unbroken. Her figure, an illustration of inherited valor, reduced its splendor to a singular, sobering reality. Silence returned, its profound depth more telling than any dialogue could communicate. They shifted within this new world, a place delicately balanced upon invisible strings of fate and providence. Sophia's gaze dropped to the glass, undisturbed in its new dwelling, reflecting back only fractured fantasies. The room breathed collectively, laden with memories ripe for rupture. Yet Giovanna altered the unformed judgment, her scattered sighs seemingly reconciled with the physical manifestation of her own tumult. Escape lay dormant, an expectation suspended between heartbeats. The image, everlasting and bruised, imprinted itself like an eye's ghost upon the innermost walls of Sophia's mind. "Leave it," Giovanna instructed, voice a lingering note above a silent melody. "The mess is mine." Each word demanded nothing less than awe, leaving Sophia bereft of argument, yet unshaken in resolve. Punctuating the space between memory and moment, the door to possibility creaked open behind her, setting into motion a path well paved by Providence. Nikolai, almost a phantom, shimmered into the doorway, eyes darkened by perpetual twilight. A constant reminder that the family's empire was built upon shadows. He moved inward, demanding attention without utterance. Sophia braced herself against a tsunami of questions that bombarded her innocent belief in normalcy, yet Nikolai's presence filled the gaps in comprehension that previously seemed impossible. "Is it really an accident if one sees it coming?" he mused. The question refracted within the room's depth, alighting upon still and distant places. "I told her," Giovanna rippled with words, each a dripping accusation. "But you, Nikolai, you endure despite." Their interchange was a war-torn dance of silence and sparring words, and Sophia perceived each declaration as a challenge, answered only by omission and untranslatable glances. In the interstice of confrontation, Sophia remained the unassuming observer, the chronicler of a tale expanding around its own confines. "Trust what you see, what you know," Nikolai continued, eyes catching hers with a gravity beyond figments. "They paint portraits of truth with deception's finest brush." Sophia's conscience weighed heavy, the secrets she guarded like noble confidants wrapped in evening's embrace, but the necessity of shielding her own narrative twisted fate's quill. By night's ebony curtain, the portraits retreated into secrecy once more. Mystery and mass dawned upon each sitter, hints of unfulfilled promises woven into the essence of oils and canvas. The grandiosity of the unknown was a seductress, tugging gently at Sophia's heartstrings, singing a lullaby of curiosity intermingled with doubt. "I can't see what's not there," Sophia whispered to herself, or to the canvas lurking within concealed walls, a journal of the family saga kept for some seeker at a future date. Nikolai had sensed it, remarked upon it, even as they cloaked the echo in casual repartee against the chiaroscuro of secrets revealed slyly at dawn's prelude. Resolve pulled courage into her veins, and Sophia sought the unfinished story residing within her own image, painted by a master hand bound in its ambition. Just then, as the silence began its engulfment, she spotted it telling fissure within the antique wall's facade. It whispered to be open, a promise of revelation held fast against the cloying embrace of past masters. "Would you risk discovering what lay beneath?" Nikolai's voice reawakened tension once more, and as Sophia reached toward the wall, her hand paused, caught in balance between destiny and discretion. The mansion, omnipotent and august, loomed overhead, mirroring her choice. An indiscernible tremor vibrated within each frame until it settled into one absolute truth, and the promise it presented. A reality enfolding her as the legacy bound her moments to them. "Only if it's whispering my name," Sophia answered, as certainty waited in the depths of possibility. Light shifted, shadows elongated, and somewhere an ancient echo laughed softly amidst the flicker of candlelight. The secret awaited, the unnamed dwellers within more than eager to tell their side, leaving the world balanced on the elegant edge of continuous doubt. Then a note, discordant but unmistakably clear, rose from below a piano key struck in the oblivion of knowing. "Something or someone is watching," whispered the truth Sophia dared to remember. One secret among many lying restlessly in the shadows. The delicate sound of a melody filled the room, sudden and stunning in its beauty, as though it had drifted into the mansion from another world. Sophia stood transfixed, her fingers hovering above the unraveling tapestry of secrets that the De Luca estate wove around her. The music sent shivers down her spine, mixing with the thrill of trepidation and inciting an ache of nostalgia she couldn't place. The room was filled with the muted color of dusk, the window panes capturing the last embers of daylight. In the dim ambiance, Sophia's figure melded with the shadows, a ghost wandering through a past not hers, but intimately entwined with her present. She was adept at entering unnoticed, her presence slipping through the folds of grandiosity and intrigue like silk through fingers. A modest figure, Sophia, with her understated attire and restrained demeanor, inspired little notice amidst the intricate hierarchy of the estate. "Stay hidden. Eyes are everywhere," Maria had warned her once, the scent of cigarettes clinging to her like a cloud of hidden experiences. "This house doesn't forget, and it doesn't forgive." The mansion buzzed with an expectancy Sophia couldn't decipher. It was a hum that vibrated beneath her skin, a weaving echo that danced through her veins. Servants hustled about with nervous energy, bright whispers of rumors passing like currents, but they avoided her path, each busy with tasks loaded with gravity and secrets of their own. Then there was Nikolai, perched with the insolence of a lingering shadow, his voice a silken thread cutting through her curtain of thought. "What will you paint in this chaos, Sophia?" It wasn't a question she could answer with ease. Paintings were spoken of here like currency glimpses into unknown futures and forgotten pasts. She felt a pressure to conjure answers from spaces defined by more than her humble duties. But today, the grandeur around her bore down with a new weight. Giovanni's guests, their faces veiled behind smiles oiled with dark intent, streamed into the mansion. High lives entertained in deeper layers of the estate, testing its walls for echoing truths. As footsteps drummed softly into opulent carpets, a crisis arose from the belly of tranquility, a fracture where the lineage of a great family met the artistry of betrayal. Sophia was there, eyes trapped open like a child drawing breath after a stunning fall. "Clean that up," one of the men muttered dismissively, pointing at a spillage of deep crimson wine, chaotic and bleeding across Giovanni's prized marble floor. Sophia's cheeks flamed with the humiliation of being a silent worker amidst the bourgeoisie dance. Obediently, she fetched her tools, wiping away their carelessness. "Do you think she knows?" One woman's whisper cut through the room as Sophia bent down, her words laced with contemptuous curiosity. "They see only what they're allowed," came a reply, their laughter cascading off the walls like a collapsing chandelier. She turned away, her fingers brushing against the fabric of reality that was yet to slip off its pedestal. Pressure from the swirling intensity of unvoiced truths made her pause, feeling for the lifeline within her truth. The night unfurled with moonlight, gilding drapery and silver the mansion itself, watching her with unwavering eyes. Sophia drifted toward the ballroom, where laughter and the whir of a dying gramophone held court. Nikolai awaited her at the edges of grandeur. His eyes promised steady understanding amidst her discontent. The ballroom's dimensions swayed with the reverberations of conflict, dancing to symphonies as ancient as the household's foundation. "What's your next move, Sophia? You're part of this now, whether you wish to be or not." "And what if I don't want any of it?" she countered, her voice a defiant whisper. He tilted his head, curiosity mingling with admiration. "Then carve a place that belongs only to you. Ignore the paintings, the whispers. Let their history be your canvas." The emblem within Nikolai's eyes blew as the edges of distant storms seemed to embrace her discomforts, promising understanding rather than just a guilty tie. Finding solace in the silence offered brought her an evocative calm, like thunder stilled within the eye of a storm. She didn't notice until it was too late, the shift of energy, the wisp of a figure too sudden to be real. Yet there it was, unwelcome but strangely expectant. Figure encased in shadow slipping unnoticed into the night. In the distance, an owl called hauntingly into the velvet darkness. Somewhere beyond its horizons, Sophia's tale continued to unroll. Everything she believed and disbelieved wafted through her mind. "In the end, who will believe us?" Sophia whispered. Her words swept away on the wind before reaching any ear that would hold them close. And as she pondered, the shadow of a presence lingered just out of reach, watching. The slicing light of dawn pried open the serenity of dreams with an urgency that unsettled the shadows lingering in Sophia's thoughts. Her body awakened with a start, stirred by an indeterminate noise echoing through the mansion, vibrating its very bones. Sophia lay still, her body nested within layers of wellest quilts that held the warmth from previous nights of settled hopes and sleepless ponderings. Her humble attire, a second-hand nightshirt with threads faded in places, spoke volumes of a girl content within her silent drama scripting a narrative few would believe. It began like any other morning in her confined universe. She moved quietly through the corridors, a silent guardian of a decadence not her own, sweeping threads of dust into oblivion with deliberate strokes of her brush. Pressure was a companion she wore lightly yet always present, a reminder in the pulsating awareness of unsaid words and expressions never caught. The mansion, ever aware, continued its games, weaving a labyrinth of loyalty and secrecy demanding everyone's participation. No exceptions for her. The day bloomed with a bristling energy, unusual but not unwelcome, wrapping Sophia in its electric tendrils. Giovanni De Luca was hosting a banquet. The scale inclined slightly toward extravagance, inviting scrutiny amidst the usual affairs of dominance. With the air crackling like the silence before thunder, a challenge danced among the guests, a test of allegiances under gilded chandeliers in the scrutiny of peers. As the festivities echoed with laughter eloquent in its affectation, Sophia found herself retreating into shadows. The patrons, draped in wealth spun from silver linings and hidden anguish, moved across the floor as if the earth had been painted with their names. Even within the hubbub, the eyes of regal stature fell upon her unnoticed presence, quietly evaluating without her knowledge. The crisis began innocuously, a suggestion wrapped in the familiarity of deceit. A whispered request found its way to Sophia's ears, a plea not without its hooks. "Deliver this painting upstairs after dark, Sophia, and discretion will find you favor." It was Pietro whose piercing gaze was thicker than the air around him. Sophia's steps betrayed something halfway between determination and dread. The weight of the rolled canvas in her arms seemed less than the burden of understanding Just what she created a peace brokered for ambition or peace with shadows lurking. Amidst the expanding corridors slick with moonlight, Sophia's pace quickened, each footfall a drumbeat echoing through vaulted ceilings and ageless walls lined with secrets. Her senses tingled as though the paintings lining the halls were more alive than the conduits they framed. Reaching the upper rooms, she soon realized the vastness here was meant for fewer eyes and even fewer confidences. Giovanni's private collection was famed within circles where darkness whispered. The task she faced now seemed Herculean. Every portrait in Giovanni's gallery was a chapter, a moment captured but unraveled through time's passing. As Sophia unfurled the piece amidst this eerie setting, she could sense the past weaving itself into the present. The painting's details, as they unfolded, took her breath away. It was a portrait, but not of a living visage. It was a likeness of herself. The realization momentarily froze her thoughts, clarity imbued within art. Giovanni's motivations remained veiled, but for a piece like this, subtlety screamed intentions. The portrait captured an essence simultaneously grand and fragile, tethered between realms of influence and anonymity. The implications surfaced hard like a gasp suddenly surfacing in a drowning dream, yet the depiction was beyond skillful, transforming her youthful simplicity into majesty. Her heart thudded loudly, resonating with the bangra of adrenaline in her veins. Shoulders pulled high with the weight of implication, she confronted a reflection that was not hers alone. Giovanni's voice, unexpected in its softness, broke the quiet. It's not every eye that sees, not every hand that captures. The shadows of the room blurred around his silhouette. Sophia turned, mask shock with attention. This isn't ordinary. Why me? Giovanni's laughter was low, a whisper of an abandoned promise or a future mapped at dawn. Talent recognizes itself, often unseen. You've grown from the roles offered, Sophia. Do you understand what that means? The challenge wrapped tightly around her thoughts, a serpent's promise lingering. Their exchange hung in the air like smoke, curling into the unseen crevices of yo-yo conversations around them. But Sophia did understand, deeply rooted in both confusion and clarity. It began to paint images and offering within demands that promised both freedom and entrapment. Climbing back into her thoughts, Sophia revealed the resolve she carried even now, unbending in its humility. You see a place I do not clearly know. Her words were messengers, leaping beyond mundane tasks to history she dared not honor yet. Stay, and arenas unfold in absence of fame. Giovanni inclined his head as though the pact echoed within realms unseen. Sophia's solitude was no longer hers alone. Her presence wrapped around understanding, which spoke truths harsh and loud. The air around them settled, chaperoning the moment into memory. This bond carries tasks latent beyond role. Be ready. His words echoed as if an older script had come to life and found its voice anew. And when do I step into your art? Sophia allowed curiosity to lift her beyond mortal borders, reaching into the thread of an immortal clock. Not all art seeks permanence. His vibrating tones died on the etched mapping of their consciousness, writing futures that glimmered as yet untold. And in that intimate theater, Sophia felt the mystery push and yield, testing her sharper edges, whispering names she had once restrained. The candlelight fractured, sending shadows darting across the breadth of the room, resolving into forms dancing with playful ease. Remember, there are still secrets meant to guide. Giovanni's hint swept the echoes into oblivion as Sophia's grace walked the floorboards, last seen in whispered rehearsal. Then, as the dust settled momentarily in silhouette, a voice lingered by the edges of surrounding shadows, eerily familiar, yet bound by the brink. Do you believe the truth, Sophia, or only what's painted for you? It rested along the seams of their reality, teasing out the faint sliver of doubt. Caught between certainty and intrigue, Sophia dared step further into the mansion's embrace, where history twisted into infinity, holding breath for the moment when life and art entwined into a lingering unity. The chill of the marble seeped into Sophia's knees as she knelt on the mansion floor, cleaning up a stubborn stain that refused to disappear under her diligent scrubbing. She won't last till morning, one of the maids whispered past her shoulder, shaking her head in pity. setting the hook for the undercurrent of tension bubbling just below the surface. Sophia kept her eyes downcast, her hands steady despite the subtle tremor coursing through her body. Her life was a testament to resilience, defined by the plain cotton of her uniform and the silent dialogue she shared with the walls. Yet underestimations were her shield as much as her chains, letting her dwell comfortably ignored in the grandiosity of the De Luca estate. A sudden rush of footsteps echoed in the hallway, a messenger of disorder hinting at the rupture in the household's rhythm. Giovanni De Luca had received an unexpected visitor, a rival perhaps, as rumors wove their way through the whispered secrecy of his employees. With practiced caution molded by necessity, Sophia listened. The conversation that had held the tension of a tightrope seemed veiled behind closed doors, but carried the weight of inevitability. "Sophia!" A sharp call punctuated her task, and she straightened immediately, her spine a line of resolve against the pressure of expectation. Pietro's shadow fell over her, his eyes a hawk's on the hunt. Fetch the antique ledger from Giovanni's study. Now, as she moved through the corridors, past decades of memories steeped into the opulence of the estate, an internal compass guided her through layers of loyalty and duty. The study was a room of quiet reflection, yet today its air trembled with a heaviness not its own. Her fingers brushed the leather bindings of books holding secrets and narratives, and her heart pounded an insistent rhythm. There was no question of lingering, and she retrieved the ledger with the grace of ritual. But on her way out, something stopped her. A slight shift of the lamplight, reflecting off a gilded frame. Sophia felt the pull, deeper than curiosity, echoing the hidden truths lodged in the very foundation of the De Luca name. A portrait, partly draped beneath rich velvet, beckoned her. She hesitated, letting the whisper of silk unwind as the photograph emerged beneath her fingertips. Shock stiffened her frame. The likeness was one she knew intimately. Her maiden reflection, depicted with such clarity and mystery, lay gazing back, crafted by hands inexplicably acquainted with her soul. This revelation churned a tempest of suspicion and incredulity within her, a collision of destiny's collision with deceit. She could stay no longer. The walls pressed in with an urgency that demanded evasiveness. Her task loomed large within her mind, pushing her back into the corridors governed by flickering candlelight and conspiratorial shadows. The estate was a theater, and Sophia was unwittingly bidding on roles beyond her grasp. The ledger tightly held under her arm was a relic of transactions, a map through translational corridors of power and peril. Yet the journey, a spectrum of command and control, dictated more. Hours elapsed in which rising voices and terse declarations held court within the De Luca halls. Through partitioned doors and behind gathered silks, Sophia caught fractured tales of allegiance and past enmities. As darkness drew the sky into watchful patience, the verdict came not in spoken words, but in whispers. Subtle gesture of Giovanni's nod, a flicker of insight ghosting through Nikolai's features. "Father's plans are turning," Nikolai had said earlier, leaning into the shadow of falsely abandoned corners, where Sophia's name had nestled into skeptical acceptance. "What of you, Nikolai?" Her voice, an arrow of inquiry, met his starkly as candlelight warmed his assassinating grin. He sighed, a theft of agitation coated with palatable charm. "Nothing ever truly belongs until it's lost, then found again." Sophia did not seek long for translation, guise of interpretation splintering painfully across the chasms they navigated. Later, when music recaptured the house's whispered identity, bringing forth a masquerade of unwitting familiarity, Sophia faced a decision, ageless in its reckoning. She carried on to return the ledger, now resolved in her quiet determination, honing onto the scope of contained rebellion. They met on the stairs, the porcelain figures of caricatured regard watching lest they stumbled off the precipice of composure in what still remained their unguarded territory. "Do not falter," Sophia whispered, not to another but as a buoy to her waking dreams. Nikolai paused beside her, a guardian of unbidden fate. The mirthful cant in his gaze spoke silently between their breaths. "What do they want?" Sophia's whispered question, unassuming in its plea, fluttered briefly on the precipice of noise. Nikolai's answer was a ghost. "Portraits, duty a captive's future wrapped beneath knives of art." His chuckle was a promise to promises unbroken. They separated, each into their own labyrinth of activity, until the gathering winds felt corners of humanity shudder to new awakening. Now, as the night embraced them, visions of clarity stood refracted within dreamscape panes. A new determination flowed within her veins, as Sophia yielded credence to her place within their crafted tapestry. Yet the world remained restless, shadows unsatisfied with the spoken testimonies of forgotten protagonists. In the velvety silence of evocation, Sophia dared one more glance at the solitary ballet of time. Her hand gripped the new outcome unknown as the mansion called in solemn testament, tying threads once seen as unraveling. A sight enshrouded at the threshold caught her breath. Time suspended, wedged within silhouette and unveiling mystery, she glimpsed a door, slightly ajar, revealing another possibility awakening within. "Do you trust the emerging dawn, Sophia, or only the longest night?" whispered a voice that mirrored her own curiosity. The rain lashed against the ornate window panes of the De Luca mansion, a cacophony of nature's rebuke. Night had bled into the early hours, and with it came an undeniable sense of foreboding. Sophia found herself ensnared within a perennial twilight, a momentous space pregnant with unspoken anticipation. Her fingers, coarse with daily toil, brushed against the velvet curtains, feeling the grit of life beneath elegant facades. A girl of seemingly little consequence, yet harboring depths that the mansion, in its silent complexity, never anticipated. Her reflection in the glass returned a gaze shadowy with contemplation. The modest uniform she wore was a carapace, rendering her near invisible among the wealth-draped denizens of the estate. Yet even within the binding constraints of her role, Sophia's movements were marked with a grace, a gentle defiance against the tides of disregard. "Get moving, girl!" Maria's voice crackled like dry parchment, echoing in the hollow stairwell. Age had not softened Maria's words, though they clung with an intimacy born from years of shared silence among gilded halls. "Giovanni's expecting guests. You know how he hates to be kept waiting," Maria continued, her tone a blend of urgency and caution, a lifetime's worth of unsaid truths cloaked in the mundane. Sophia nodded, her response brisk, converging necessity with discretion as she made her way through corridor dense with shadows. The ambient scent of polished wood and lingering incense followed her, an olfactory testament to the De Luca legacy. As she reached the grand ballroom, Sophia was met with an unexpected scenic cathedral of light, where laughter masqueraded as joy beneath the vaulted ceilings. Guests, their identities shrouded by masks of papier-mâché and silk, skated across the polished floors. From her secluded vantage, Sophia watched. Here, the lives that intertwined carried stories beyond skin and costume. She was a silent chronicler of a society that prided itself on the illusions it wove and the realities it buried. But just as the music swelled into a crescendo, a discordant note struck. The voice of Giovanni De Luca, commanding and clear, punctured the evening like a dagger plunged into night. "Bring her, Earl," he demanded, his words cast like netting over the sea of faces. Sophia's heart skipped a beat, each word a stone splashing into her pool of calm. The room's heady atmosphere suddenly thickened. The gauze of opulence pulled taut against the panic beneath. She felt the weight of eyes, each glance a fraying string tethered to an act more dire than the last. Drawn by Giovanni's call, his silhouette emerged through the throng, a raptor stepping into the sun. His gaze, once a mere shadow brushing past her, now sharpened with an intensity that seemed to dissect and appraise. Sophia's composure was a shield against the storm, her expression an unyielding bastion. She steeled herself against the moment's gravity as she approached, drawn inexorably into the play of scheme's sure role, unscripted yet indispensable. "Trust in what you cannot see." Nikolai's earlier words whispered through her mind, a balm against the growing tumult. Sometimes the truth is not what they say, but what the wind carries. As she reached Giovanni's side, the ballroom appeared to sway each dancer, a figure in a tableau vivant, held captive by the unfolding drama. Giovanni's eyes were stormy with purpose, his presence a keystone drawing every gaze. "Tonight marks more than a gathering," Giovanni spoke, his voice carrying authority tempered with persuasion. "This, Sophia, is the threshold of our destiny. The words clung to her skin like the mist of an impending storm, demanding more than acquiescence. They portended a transformation that thrummed around her, as inevitable as the night stealing the day. "Do you see now?" Giovanni gestured widely, the grandeur of the room swelling to fill the spaces between his words. The masked guests waited, breaths catching under the spell of anticipation. Sophia hesitated, her fingers twitching as they longed to grasp the soundless notes of fate's unfurling opus. "What is it you seek?" Her question, restrained yet insistent, cut through the opulence and expectation. Giovanni's chuckle threaded through the room, a velvet promise that resonated beneath the whispered echoes of history. He leaned closer, voice dropping to a conspiratorial drawl. "In every grand design lies a small, crucial cog," he intoned, centuries of legacy shaping the cadence of his words. "We find ourselves at the edge, and you, Sophia, may choose to turn or remain where the moment leaves you." In that suspended breath, as the dance assumed its orchestral return, Sophia sensed a changing tide. She felt herself mirroring the countless reflections within the walls, poised to leap into an era spun from her dreams and fears. But unfinished tales stir the heart. Restlessly, a single gesture broke the still waters, shattering complacence with ripples that will resonate long past dawn. A figure, masked and shadow-cloaked, moved with sudden purpose through the crowd, dissolving into the night with Sophia's attention fixed, like an arrow drawn to an unseen target. "Who decides fate, Sophia?" whispered the era challenge, awaiting its answer. Rain lashed against the worn marble of the courtyard, a relentless tattoo almost drowning out the sound of Sophia's heart as she turned the page of her life into the arena. Her mind held echoes of everything she'd never known to be true, clamoring with discord as vibrant truths unveiled themselves like lightning illuminating a storm-darkened sky. Under the expectant shadows of the De Luca mansion, Sophia was a vivid cameo against the drabness of servants, jewels of rain glistening on her hair and coat. Her attire did not announce her presence, but the new weight in her gaze, a girl, made of questions and now resolute understanding, did. Tonight, Giovanni had said, voice a heavy tapestry of promised destiny, is the beginning and the end. "Are you ready?" She had nodded, a barely perceptible bow, the echo of waxed wood floors guiding her quiet acceptance of her role in an orchestra tuning itself for the night's performance. Her movements, though still coated by servant's grace, met his gaze, exposing a limit of patience wrapped in practice, rich in texture like worn leather. As moonlight painted the balustrades with lunar fire, there was no doubt she had stepped beyond the threshold, no longer a whisper in an echoing hall. Tension pulsed through her with the tempo of drumming rain. The mansion squared upon its shadows, and the world turned, asking its questions in verses of wind and stone. Little Sophia Maria had crowed earlier in the understory of the morning, a people watcher clinging to a cigarette's remaining warmth, caught in shadows of might. Stay small, greatness requires nothing from you. Through labyrinthine corridors cloaked in perfumed air, from dappled silhouettes past every intention. Their walls slowly carried Sophia into acknowledgement, a tapestry woven with care and indifference alike, urging her to peace or disquiet as she embraced the pride of no illusions. Giovanni had placed his mark. Sophia whisked toward the ballroom where candlelit extravagance swallowed her whole, muffling the conscience with symphonic guile. Every corner preserved the memory of wealth woven into hushed intent, the overture of strings carrying her into a realm made for conquerors or the conquered. The guests arrived in mass that proclaimed loyalty, but even the candied whispers held edges sharp with secrets. It was a game where the stakes were measured in hearts opened or closed and souls liberated or ensnared. Soon the symphony fell to its lowest ebb, a whispered attention drawn to Giovanni's raised chalice, once a heart's blood-drenching vines of origin, now unearthed in the glass. "We are poised on the brink, my friends," his voice consummate in charm, "to enter the age of revelation." The words carried Sophia beyond the moment, dominion-crafted imagery she was set to wield or watch. Her heartbeat retreated to that secretive chamber within her chest, the vision coursing her mission, painted existence into focus, all but eclipsed by 3 rising tides. In the frozen moment, Nikolai approached, an emberlit shadow in consciousness's afterimage. his touch igniting a warmth beneath the layers ambiguous to her heed. In deceptions lie our truths, he offered, a curator discerning his most envied intrigue in the hesitant flame of her eyes. Sophia braced against the mansion's ephemeral choreography and eternal staging, where encores whispered plots to hearts entwined in ever-persistent conspiracy. With a step that brushed cobblestones waiting beneath tapestry threads, she reached towards the crest of the scene. Her essence siphoned understanding from each brushwork's finely rendered universe, a revelation rising from the mists, lifting a young servant girl to discover a woman crafted for the poignant immersion of her stars. Here, where words might splinter but understanding met tapestry, the painting painted back across her mind with the touch of a master's cunning. The portrait roared with an unspoken revelation of self-prophesied might and decommissioned naivety. It twined amidst lucidity woven, a recasting of nights where brushing shoulders and flashing swords wielded reins over the revelation that resided amid human consciousness. Giovanni leaned forward, his aura woven into the chant she mirrored, intertwined with the elements. Will you take the truth or leave it in the cradle of dreams? His incantation offered Sophia the answer neither deed nor melody could capture. When next their wills unwove, Sophia edged between a reflection of pleading choice. The Empress of Lost Year, capturing destiny, in delicate hue-shirt answer, neither yes nor no, but an unflinching wind-tossed affirmation to meet the guardian hour. Resoluteness possessed hair, a warmth, an ember woven across a tapestry brushing over spinster's hands as vision stole onto the lattice stitching fate-bound cord onto her life. Yet even as her rally was cast in shadow upon exalted stone, a lingering visage within the gallery remained unsought, an enduring spectral rider sheathed within decision's birthplace. Hold steady in the coming storm, Nikolai's voice brushed past softly, as relentless as rain's symphonic hammer, carrying the quiet weight of mourning and hope. In proximity of parted vows, the mansion tilted into chiaroscuro joys unseen, whispers igniting from figures creeping through top-spin fantasies silenced by either dawn or the forever-fated moon's ascent. A hushed call waited there. Library of ancient truths left yearning ship, crowded till one found the courage to explore reality's banter tattooed upon eternity. As night embraced the mansion's chambers, pulling intricate tendrils of memory across faith's fragile fabric, every soul ventured eager, till discovery collapsed upon a wretched longing. Silence enveloped the gathering night, then a crack resonated through chamber halls like a final reverberation lacking incantation's intent. It left Sophia with intrigues beckoning, reminding her that only fate decided by riddles whispered could lay eyes upon the final chapter. Will you unravel the hidden tapestry, or bind it so stringently? A gesture beyond whispered doors and impetus shadows arched scythe glistening across the dimly wrought night, challenging neither verity nor myth, just waiting for whom it might claim. The dissonant crash reverberated through Sophia's consciousness like the final toll of a funeral bell. Her eyes snapped open to a scene fractured by chaos and darkened by intense silhouette tossed against the dim glow of morning, breaking through fractured clouds. Beneath the echoes, the mansion settled into hostile quietude. Sophia breathed in the scent of rain-drenched earth and electrified air, the morning fully aware of the hour she now faced. Her uniform rustled, the fabric almost whispering back the urgency of her heartbeats. Each footstep through the estate's somber halls resonated as destiny marking its passage, a tapestry of loyalty and strife, playing out its final act behind the mask of grandeur. The mansion stood unified by expectation. Giovanni's steely resolve, a man whose presence commanded like thunder loomed over shadowed gatherings. He awaited an answer she was hesitant to give but knew was inevitable. Accusations were shared beneath polished chandeliers, truth sealed in laughter disguised as camaraderie. Sophia thought of Maria's words, admonitions woven like an elder's knitted stitches into fabric patterns of warnings cloaked in dismissal. Pietro's crooked grin awaited her in the corridor, eyes as sharp as cut glass. Destiny demands clarity. Our time grows short. Complete your part in this tale before another can unravel it. His voice edged with challenge, the promise of coming storms. Sophia navigated the maze of room-spaced walls filled with portraits that gazed with their indifferent, watchful eyes. In the ballroom, the symphony prepared to reach heights of exuberance yet untamed, Tension crackled under candlelit reflections, impending decisions casting lengthy shadows across polished floors. Nikolai intercepted her, as intuitive as breath to lung, his expression a question in itself. Does courage find you when you need it most? A tempered smirk hid behind Sophia's firm resolve, her gaze steady. Perhaps courage finds those who seek deeper answers beyond what is and what reads beneath the canvas of promise. Recognition danced in Nikolai's eyes. He offered the safety of camaraderie behind mischievous echoes of destiny's decree. The threads that bind power echoes as laces in your fingers grasp. What choice will rise from the dream woven for you? Fingers brushing the hidden textures of decisions left ancient but always present, Sophia knew now what path she must traverse. The mansion's breath held in symmetrical framing of grand design powers that generously pardoned or held flame to winter's edge. Sophia stood, moment poised on a precipice where role and reward intersect in tapestry ever layered and entangled. She dressed a whispered courage in shadows, her destiny no longer an esoteric ring, but now a vivid landscape to traverse or exit. As the masquerade in dreams continued, beneath painted promises and spyglass perspectives, the exchange of roles played dense among the guarded reflections. Giovanni hovered like a sentinel within the folds of those who pledged or doubted. His scrutiny held all at bay until Sophia stepped forward, her voice in authority despite its restrained volume. Tonight is a beginning, an end still awaited in discretion's distance. Giovanni nodded, a glimmer of triumph touched by the human cost a new dawn exacted below painted stars. An echoer was at a faintest pulse behind fire, and thread beckoned Sophia towards the gallery of lessons learned in spill of shadows. The truth revealed within a fractured glance, Giovanni declared, his depth far greater than any cloak provided by his vision's script. Her fingers folded against the warmth of an unseen reality, nestled in presence of hues vibrant with life unspoken, her hands stilled on porcelain among secrets answered. Resolutions, often fleeting, surged onto her withheld breath, set free yet quietly clear of legacies turbulent and promised as hearts pledged was together. Beyond the room's expanse, where dance and deception tangled in elegant measure, a breathless silence gathered profound anticipation. Guardians of night bestowed whispered questions veiled softly beneath crafted facades. A single reverberation bore witness upon unveiled dusk thirst unmended, truth unleashed, and intuition held steady till dawn's stark clarity. Sophia moved, her reflection impossibly more than the semblance of one identity, held a reminder that those awakened would find their truth, one wrapped in painted fate. Will the dance yield secrets kept at bay till morning's tale? The heirloom clock seemed to ask. In the lulling echoes leading towards day's turn, Sophia traced lessons couched amongst verses chanted softly. Discover hidden paths printed not in ink, but in heart's echo and the pain of dreams. Where the mansion slumbered, yet awake to burgeoning reality, shadows sighed secrets amidst Sophia's path. Strings of destiny woven once more into irrevocable promise. Will the final page reveal the portrait's keeper? Or does it bear those who seek? Whispered the clock at her journey's edge.